Hi guys, I'm Gasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss some horror. So today I thought I would give you a couple of ideas of books that you can use for the prompts for the evilathon this year. I know this video is coming out really late, but I hope that maybe some of these suggestions help you. Otherwise, just take this video as a horror book recommendation.
It's coffee time.
So I wanted to upload this video last Tuesday, but I had to drive back to the Netherlands to go again to the town hall for like a 5-minute appointment. But the good news is that everything we had to do for keeping the house has been done, which means the house is officially sold to us, so we're not gonna lose the house anymore, which was our fear. So everything is going as planned, and I'm here today to let you know a couple of books that you can read for the prompts that I have given you for the evilathon. If you missed that video, I'm gonna link it for you down below. Basically, the evilathon is a horror readathon that I like to host every year during the month of November. This year I'm not gonna be as involved as I wanted to be, but for next year I'm gonna plan lives, I'm gonna plan interviews, I'm gonna go all out. Sadly this year I just do not have the time for it, but I thought it would be really fun, and I have based it mostly on vampires because lately for some reason I've been rewatching a lot of vampires, and vampires have been really present in my head. Plus, you know, this is a time where a lot of things in my life have been sucking. So I thought, hey, let's just play with that and talk about vampires. Fright night was to read a horror book with questionable neighbors. For this one, I thought a perfect one would be the Southern Book Club's Guide of Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. It's also a book that has been in a lot of people's radars, so if you have not read it yet, it's perfect for this prompt. We follow Patricia. She's a housewife and she's a little bit bored with her picture perfect life in her neighborhood, and she decides to join a book club. But not only that, they also have a new neighbor that moves into the neighborhood, and he seems a little bit weird, he seems a little bit sketchy, and Patricia shares kind of her ideas about this neighbor, and she kind of assumes that this neighbor could potentially be a vampire. So that's where our story takes off. I had a lot of fun with this book. It was not as perfect as I wanted it to be, but I really enjoyed it, and it fits perfectly the prompt. Double Lives, True Lives of Criminals Next Door by Eric Brack, and this one I thought I would mention because it is a non-fiction book, and it is talking about, you know, your typical killers like Ted Bundy and Dahmer and all of those people that somehow were someone's neighbor and nobody knew what was going on under the roof. And I think it kind of explores a little bit you know, what secrets your neighbors might be hiding from you. And I believe this one also had some drug abuse described by the author himself, something that he had to go through. So it's kind of like a mix, I guess, of a non-fiction story, but it is a true crime. So if you're looking for more true crime to add to your TBR pile, this one might be for you. Blade was to read a book about a vampire hunter, and for this one I have Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter by Stephen Graham Smith. And this one I thought it was a lot of fun. It takes place in the 1800s, and it follows Abraham Lincoln when he's a kid, and basically his mom is really sick and ends up dying of this sickness, but then later he finds out that actually it was a vampire that killed his mom, and he of course takes it upon himself to get revenge and start a vampire kind of hunting mission. This one was a lot of fun. Not gonna lie. A friend gave this one to me. I didn't even know about this book, and when I read it I just had a blast. Then I thought I would mention here a graphic novel, and that is Anita Blake. The first graphic novel is called Guilty Pleasures, and it is about this small but feisty woman whose job is basically to reanimate the dead and basically to kill the undead that takes things too far. This one is one of those graphic novels that I just came across one day a long time ago and decided to buy it, and I had a lot of fun with it, and I still have not finished the series, and I should at some point. But if you're looking for something to read that is not as long as a novel, maybe you don't have so much time, if you have access to these graphic novel volumes, this might make it easier for you to complete the prompts. Underworld, to read a book about a creature. It can be any type of creature, and I have here for you Becoming by Glenn Rolfe, and this is a tale of an ancient creature. So Michelle kind of witnesses the disappearance of her best friend, and when she goes to the police, she describes this creature that she saw taking her friend, and of course nobody believes you. We have here the trope of nobody believes you until it's too late. And basically they just think that, you know, because of the shock or whatever, she's making things up. And later people from town start disappearing, and that's when the sheriff realizes that there is actually something going on. Duh, Michelle already tried to tell you, brah. So yeah, this one's a little fun. A lot of people love this one, so if you haven't read it yet, it might be perfect for you for this prompt. The Dark Deep by Ali Condi and Brendan Wright, and I decided to pick this one up because it's middle grade, so I wanted to offer a little bit more variety. And this is volume 1 of a series, and it is about these kids that by chance end up finding this cave by the sea, and they enter it and they make a really gruesome discovery inside of the cave. Something ancient is awakened. I've heard really good things about this one. I have not read it myself, but it is on my list of spooky middle grades that I want to read. I Am Legend, to read a horror classic. So for this one I have picked The Blood of the Vampire by Florence Marryat because it is another vampire classic, and I know a lot of people mostly know about Dracula, so I wanted to offer other vampire classics for you guys. So this one would also be perfect if you're really into vampires and you never read this classic. We follow here Harriet, who is taking her first trip to Europe, and something really strange seems to be happening around her. The people that she comes in contact with, they either die or they become really sick, and there is this theory that a doctor has that there is vampire blood running through her veins, and that is the reason why. I really enjoy this one. It's one of those classes that is not talked about so much, so definitely would recommend you that. Carmilla by J. Sheridan LaFanu, and this is previous to Dracula, so you could say this was the original vampire story, and it follows we are in Austria, and it follows Laura, and she receives one day the visit of this woman called Carmilla, and she stays with her. Laura starts to realize that she's getting weaker by the moment, and Carmilla is acting a little bit weird, and it is all about the relationship between these two women. Definitely recommend you to read this one if you have not read it yet. It has been recently launched with a special edition, I believe, in hardcover that looks really beautiful, blood red and black. So if you have not read this one yet, it's another one of those classics, and this one is a precedent to Dracula, so I would really encourage you to pick it up if you love to learn about, you know, the folklore of vampires and to experience those first vampire stories in literature. The Lost Boys, to read a book about a group of friends. I love that trope so much. My first recommendation for this is going to be The Bleeding Season by Greg F. Gufueno. In this story we follow a group of friends, and life seems to be perfect in their coastal town until one of them dies. Then another one commits suicide. Then sometime later people in town start to die, to get murdered, and the kids kind of have to figure out what's happening before it is too late. Ghost Squad by Claribel A. Ortega. This is a middle grade that is also on my list, but I still have not read yet. I have a lot to catch up with when it comes to spooky middle grades, but this one's going to be perfect also for expanding the Halloween season because it takes place a couple of days before Halloween, and two friends kind of do an oopsie. They have an oopsie and they're trying to perform a spell, and instead of that they kind of release bad spirits out, like bad ghosts, so they're going to have to get them back together with the help of their witch grandmother. So I think it's going to be a nice family lower on the cryptometer thing. I think this is going to be kind of, you know, ghost story combined with a little bit of fantasy because we have magic here, but it just sounds so cute and so perfect and so cozy. Near dark to read a horror novella. So for this we have Camp Neverland by Lisa Quigley. This belongs to the Rewind or Die series and I really enjoyed this one. It is about Max. She decides to go to a summer camp to kind of forget her life for a little bit, just for a summer, and what she doesn't know is that her bully is going to be at that camp as well, so she's not really going to be able to escape, you know, the people from her life that she wanted to run away from. And Max also has a talent, which is that when she paints, there are certain things that she paints that seem to come true, and her paintings are getting darker and darker. Now this story is a lot more than you can imagine. It is perfect in a way for the summer season because it is a summer camp, but it is a very dark atmosphere and it also will work this fall. Then I wanted to mention a novella that I want to read really bad but I still haven't, and that is The Worm and His Kinks by Hailey Piper. And this is based on the 1990s and we follow Monique, whose girlfriend Donna disappears, and Monique finds out that more women are disappearing. They're kind of being dragged somewhere into the underground of the city, so she decides to go and find Donna, and of course you'll find creatures and a lot of nasty things in the tunnels underground. I've heard really things about this one, so if you were considering picking it up or maybe you have a copy at home, this might be the perfect moment to pick it up. Let the right one in is to read a book with a trope that you like, with a theme that you like. And for this one I decided to go with creepy children, and I decided to pick two things that are really short. They're kind of novella so that, you know, you guys can fit it in somewhere in the month. We have The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn that has amazing reviews, and it is all about Susan, her psychic, and the stepson that ended trapped in a Victorian house where things happened in the past, and they have returned to investigate this place and they find themselves trapped in there. So it's all about that, and it's only I think 60-90 pages, so it gets intense quickly but it is perfect if you guys don't have too much time in your hands. The Fifth Child by Doris Lessing, and this is a contemporary gothic horror, and it all centers around this baby that was born not looking really human and I think this one is around 130 pages, so it is another one that's very digestible for a quick read. Harriet and David, they live in England. We're in the 1960s and they already have 4 children. So when the 5th child comes along, he doesn't really look much human, and things don't get better as the kid starts to grow older, and Harriet is really struggling because she's unable to love her own son. So that's all I'm going to tell you, but it's another quick great read to squeeze in between. The hunger is to read a horror that you've been dying to read, a horror book, and for this I've picked 2 books that I have not read myself and that I've been telling myself that I have to read for the longest time. The first one is The Cipher by Kathy Koja, and this one I know that Alex from the Book Booth absolutely loves it, raves about it, and I've just been meaning to pick it up. I don't even have a copy yet, but it's one of those that every time she mentions it or somebody mentions it, I'm like, yeah, no, I know I have to read this. And I don't know exactly what it's about. I think it's a little bit weird and awkward. All I know is that it involves a hole. And I remember seeing a movie about a hole in the wall that was really weird. So yeah, I don't know, I'm just gonna go into it and let the book surprise me, hopefully in the near future. And I have here Harvest Home by Thomas Tyron, and this is another favorite from a booktuber that I follow, which is Regina over at Regina's Haunted Library, and I know that she also loves this one so much, and I've been meaning to pick it up. It's said that it's the book that inspires Stephen King's Children of the Corn, so I am like extremely excited about this one. Also need to get a copy of it. And this one is about, as far as I understand, a family that decide to move from the city to the countryside because the daughter develops some sort of asthma problems, and they decide to move in this new beautiful house. And then I guess neighbors are weird, things are weird in this new place. I'm not really sure. I don't like to get too much information in these kind of books and let them surprise me a little bit, because sometimes the synopsis can be really long and they might contain spoilers, especially for older books, I have the feeling. So yeah, these are two books that I really need to get to. And yeah, let's face it, I don't even own a copy of them, but it's one of those things that it's like, I know I have to read these books. I know I have to. Daybreakers is to read a horror book that is set on a futuristic world, and for this one I have decided to choose two science fiction horror books that I also need to read myself and that I've heard amazing things about. The Last Astronaut by David Wellington follows Sally, and after a NASA mission goes wrong in Mars, she's the only survivor and she returns to Earth full of shame. She feels like she has failed and she's looking for a way of redemption. And that day comes when an alien ship enters the Earth atmosphere, and she's chosen to go and try to contact this alien ship and try to figure out what they want. So I've heard amazing things about this one, and it's definitely one that I have up on my list of sci-fi horror. I really need to read more sci-fi horror. The Luminous Dead by Caitlin Starling, and this one reminds me a little bit of The Thing, but kind of set on space. And this one I already have a copy of, but I still haven't got to it. And I already packed it to move, so it's not gonna happen until I move. But this one is about, you know, a team that has been sent into mission to kind of mapping some minerals or something like that, and they think, you know, that it's gonna be an easy kind of mission, that the only problems are gonna be something happens inside of the cave with like rocks falling, something like that. But what they don't expect is how dark it's going to be in there, and I think it affects them in a psychological level and they start kind of losing their minds a little bit, I think. I'm really excited about this one. I've heard amazing things about it. That's why I also bought it. But I still have not read it, but I feel like I can recommend it to you because I've heard from people that I trust that it's a really good book. And for the last challenge, The Little Vampire, is to watch a spooky horror movie that you know from your childhood. And honestly, one of the movies that I watch every year that I know some of you were surprised I didn't mention it in my other video is The Nightmare Before Christmas, because I've been watching this movie for so long. I watch it sometimes twice a year. It's kind of like a tradition for me. And another one that I love to revisit is Gremlins. Absolutely love Gremlins, but there is many more as well. I kind of was raised by Tim Burton in a way, because I remember also watching Edward Scissorhands always around the season or in winter, and I always loved the story of where snow came from. I don't remember watching many of the classic Halloween movies for kids when I was young. I think not all of them made it over to Spain. So basically Nightmare Before Christmas, which was more of a blockbuster situation, really got to us in television, and it was running every Halloween, every Christmas, so I do remember that one from television. Alright guys, so these were some recommendations for the prompts. I hope that you found here something that you can either use for the prompts or something that you found here for your future reading. I hope that despite my situation this year not being able to participate fully, I hope that you guys are still excited for the prompts, are still gonna read a couple of things. You don't have to fulfill all the prompts. You can combine them. You can substitute a book for a movie if you just don't have the time. This is just, you know, a way that I want for us to expand the Halloween season and keep reading some spooky things, keep watching some horror movies all throughout November before Christmas comes around, and we have to kind of embrace it, I guess. It's not like that we're giving a choice. But yeah, this is all for now, guys. I hope to see some of you guys posting your TBR piles on Twitter or Instagram. Remember always to tag me. If you guys vlog, that will be freaking amazing. I'll love to see that as well. So just let me know if you're going to participate, and if you post anything related to the evilathon, please tag me so that I can see what you guys have been up to. As always, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Please give the video a big thumbs up, and I hope to see you all in our next coffee time. Bye.